We got a guest on the line here I want to go to right away. That's right, Stephen K. Bannon, Executive Chairman of Breitbart News. Now, Steve, I'm channeling my inner Bannon this morning. I've been on an absolute tear. The more I think about this Roy Moore story, the more this does feel like a political witch hunt. The more this does feel like a total orchestrated, colluded hit between the Republican establishment, the establishment press, the Democratic Party, the Washington Swamp Uniparty, and I'm getting more offended the more I think about it. Your thoughts?
It's 100%. I mean, even Chuck Todd, the swampiest creature of swamp creatures. I mean, he had a pretty good. He walked through it yesterday on Meet the Press.
We got that clip. Want to play it?
He said it felt completely orchestrated.
Let's play that clip.
Yeah.
Steve, hang tight. Let's play this clip. Go ahead, Paul.
Charlie Cook is Mitch McConnell. The way he's been, this clearly felt almost orchestrated. The minute, within an hour this came out, many of the McConnell allies came out and said he's got to go. It sounds like Mitch McConnell has decided it's worse if Roy Moore wins.
Yep, that's all you need to hear. If Chuck Todd acknowledges it,
we ought to play that. You ought to play that 20 times between now and the end of the show. That says it all. But Chuck Todd, laid it out within an hour. I think it was within 57 minutes. One of the things I found most surprising, all of a sudden on my BlackBerry with the comms alert, it was like 57 minutes, and then bang, 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 one after the other. You're going to find out that what happened down there was Republican operatives had this information or were concocting some of this information, working with the Washington Post, who's lying about this, working with the Washington Post, who also had contacts with McConnell and these guys to drop this weaponized hit on Judge Moore, and then bang, 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 hit it right away with all of McConnell's lackeys. And here's the thing. Immediately they jump out, hey, they're going to lose this seat. Remember, they would rather lose a seat in the United States Senate and keep their own power control in the Republican Party, right? This is just another desperate attempt by Mitch McConnell to keep power, and it's not going to work. People in Alabama see through this.
Yes, they do.
The good folks of Alabama are going to be able to weigh and measure this. Plenty of time to weigh and measure this, and to come to a conclusion, an independent conclusion, which the folks down there are obviously capable of doing. But this is an orchestrated hit from the Uniparty.
Yes, that's exactly right. The two most important stories this weekend, and of course we were tracking this 24/7 at Breitbart News. You can see it's been a very hot news weekend. You can get caught up on the front page right now. The first one I would say is the Chuck Todd clip. The second one was this Alabama ABC affiliate, Steve, that could not find one voter in a Man in the Street segment who believes the Washington Post report. I'm looking at the calls. I will take a call who thinks Roy Moore is guilty first. We spent a full hour taking nothing but calls. I've got a full board full of calls now. Every single call does not believe the Washington Post.
You know why? Because folks are coached up now. The old days, they would have been on the hook and the mainstream media would have had their way. Folks are coached up. Here's the great thing about the Internet and about places like Breitbart and others is that, and this is why it's so we're so grateful we have this partnership with SiriusXM, that we've got this great radio platform, because radio and the Internet go right together, is that you can't fool people anymore. The information can get out there. And people make their own judgment. Alex, you and I talk all the time, both on the radio show and on the site. It's show, don't tell. We don't need a lot of opinion. We don't. We're not really radio that's driven by host. No. Raheem or Alex or Rebecca Mansour or Sonny Johnson or Matt Boyle or Steve Bannon. Any of us and many others. You're going to see over the next year so many more Breitbart personalities, Seth Gorka, Francis Martell,
right.
Amanda House. You're just going to see a whole slew of new personalities come out and man these shows, of which we're going to be expanding. And you're going to see we're not there to give you opinion. We're just there to present the facts and let you come to the conclusion opinion. That's the power.
That's right.
Right? That's
yes.
what you're seeing down in Alabama. I thought the ABC thing was a complete heckle on the Washington Post.
That's right. Yeah, and your point about the host being mostly interchangeable is so crucial. If you guys did not get a chance to listen to the Saturday show that Steve co-hosted with Raheem, I got to tell you, I was walking around doing my thing in Washington listening to the show. It's just so good. The callers are so good. Steve went on an epic tear against Paul Singer, which maybe we'll get to that momentarily, which was worth the price of admission. And Rebecca and Joel on the Sunday night show. As I got up my game, Steve, because the JV team is all of a sudden improving. They're getting their game together. So
they call the guys off retirement. Guys like Bannon come out of retirement, and then Joel and Rebecca are stepping up. No, it's fantastic. I had the honor of speaking to the Zionist Organization of America last night. Hopefully, we play the speech maybe tomorrow, something as we get it. But it was so many people have come up to me. And not just about the site. It used to just be about the site, but about the radio show. It is incredible how many people are coming up and saying, hey, I listen to the radio show every day, and I can't get enough of it. And it's because of the callers. I mean, the callers, but that's what I think is great. For the next couple of hours, you just take callers from Alabama or throughout the rest of the country who believe the Jeff Bezos, Amazon, Washington Post. This is the opposition party in high relief. But the key thing here is the opposition party is working with establishment Republicans.
Have you noticed, Steve, how it's never that the Republican, they never falsely report the Republican spent a lot of summers growing up working in a soup kitchen? It's always that they're always touching children. Like, that's always what we learn. And what it's doing here, Steve, and this is what I'm very discouraged by, and you are by far the number one honey badger in American politics right now. And I think part of the appeal that you have is because there are so many people who might be like me, who might be like so many of our listeners, who are good, decent, normal people who might one day think about running for office somewhere. Why would you want to put up with it if this witch hunt continues to take place?
No, they're out to destroy you. That's why I pride Breitbart at being. I said last night at the ZOA dinner, they had some speakers beforehand, people I really admire a lot, and a couple I'm really friendly with, who talked about moderation and want to be moderate voices, and it's a time to bring both sides together and to listen. And I got up there and I said, look, I love moderates. They're fantastic, and I particularly love people on the right who want to moderate and reach out and everything like that. I said, that's not me. I'm a fighter, right? I think that if you're, and I said this last night with the state of Israel, how on Capitol Hill there's an anti-Israel. And throughout the country, you start to see anti-Semitism on college campuses. It's time to be a fighter. And a honey badger, not a moderate. We're going to have to fight our way through this thing. And for people out there thinking of running, we encourage everybody to engage. Understand they're going to try to destroy you. This is, once again, they're not debate. It's just like the Donald Trump campaign. They're not there to debate the topic.
No.
They don't want to talk about immigration. They don't want to talk about DACA. They don't want to talk about, they don't want to talk about the Gulf, the Middle East. They want to talk about Korea and China. What they want to do is tear you down. And it's amazing. Where's the outrage and the firestorm over Bill Clinton, a known sexual predator, right? Where's the firestorm? Really, you haven't really seen a firestorm even on these accusations on some of these other guys in the Hollywood industry. I mean, there's been victims coming forward, but it hadn't been the vicious teardown that you've seen on Judge Moore.
Have you seen Mitch McConnell, Mitt Romney, Pat Toomey, these guys, John Kasich, have they been as forceful condemning? Let's do the rap sheet. Hillary Clinton, who ran the war rooms for Bill Clinton, attacking his accusers. Bob Menendez, who is probably going to get convicted of criminal corruption, of bribery, current United States senator. Have you seen Harvey Weinstein, that has bankrolled the entire Democratic establishment for the last 2 decades? Are they condemning those people half as forcefully as they're condemning Roy Moore over 40-year-old accusations?
If they did, I missed it. Okay, I totally missed it. And by the way, I threw the White House staff in there. The White House staff ought to understand something. This is what they try to do to President Trump. And they're going to try to come back on President Trump. The White House staff's got to savvy up over there, right? They're going to try to turn back on President Trump. You watch. These guys on the left, right? You already see it out there.
This is a trial balloon, Steve. You're on to something. This is a trial. This is a canary in the coal mines.
Canary in the coal mines. The White House staff has got to get a lot savvier. Right, a lot savvier. They're just playing into the hands of the opposition party, and I think some of the comments over the weekend are very disturbing. But you know what? This is about the good folks in Alabama who have plenty of common sense and plenty of judgment. They'll be able to weigh and measure all the facts and come to a conclusion. One thing I do want to say though is they're going back to what's 40 years on Judge Moore. One thing we're going to start, going through is Mitch McConnell. Mitch McConnell's got some controversial things that we haven't brought to light, that we've been kind of looking at, as I guess you say, kind of looking at. And it's one of the things is how Mitch McConnell was in the Army, but he wasn't in the Army that long. And there's a lot of controversy about why Mitch McConnell, got rolled out of the Army. And so there'll be, we've been doing some investigating, I guess you would say, into Brother McConnell's, earlier life. And it'll be interesting. I guess it's what's good for the goose is good for the gander.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what should be up next, and there's only so much we can focus on any given moment, Steve. But we should start investigating some of these editors, and we should start investigating some of these publishers, the higher up people in the New York Times and the Washington Post and CNN. These are the people in American life who have some of the most power, and we know so little about them. And I'll tell you, I'm an open book. I live a very button-up life. Do you know why I live a button-up life, Steve? First of all, it's the right thing to do. But the second part is I know the left will come after me. If I have a skeleton in my closet, the left will find it, and they will beat me over the head with it with a cudgel. I've lived my whole life that way.
Yeah. No, I think it's time, but particularly in the fact that this was a Republican operative hit on Judge Moore. The facts will be coming out, I think, over the next couple of days that this is a Republican operative hit from some of the usual suspects. And I think it's time to have a frank conversation. I think it's time for the grassroots to have a frank conversation about, do you want to be associated with these people, right? Look, the Republican apparatus. And this shows you with all the stuff that came out with Judge Moore initially, we're going to lose a seat. It's going to be 51-49. Understand something. They would rather be in the minority and control the Republican apparatus, why would they want to do that? Because they can suck out a lot of money. Okay? Even in a minority, they can suck out a lot of money. It's a business model. This has nothing to do with representing your interest. This has nothing to do with helping the country. This has nothing to do with your children and grandchildren. Okay, this has to do with lining their pockets. And by the way, we're also going through a very systematic review of how these guys make their money. And so all this is going to come out in time, right? In the age of the internet, you can't hide anything. It's one of the great powers of the internet, right? It's disintermediated the old legacy media. So, Alex, I got to tell you, it's going to be quite interesting between now and December 12th. But there's a lot of wood to chop.
And there is a lot of wood to chop, but I'm starting to turn the corner from sort of depressed by it to very fired up by it because, look, I was fired up at first. I can't believe you got depressed. I play it cool, Steve. Steve, I'm the yin to your yang. You know that. So I let you handle being fired up. Oh yeah, that's
right. You and your lovely wife, the soon-to-be doctor.
No, she is doctor. Mrs. Doctor, no. This is she's so evil. She spends her time at the VA helping sick veterans that she's never met before. Because that's who we're attracted to at Breitbart. Mostly children and no, it's a joke. That's a joke, folks. It's a very dark moment in American life in terms of the way we are going after people with witch hunts. But Steve, let me ask you about the stakes. The stakes have been raised by Mitch McConnell, by the Republican establishment, by the attempted ouster of Judge Moore over these decades-old accusations. And that's the sort of thing where where we get fired up. We thrive when the stakes are higher.
Oh, yeah. This is what's great. By the way, for all the folks out there, this is exactly when Breitbart is at its best as a platform. But, Mitch McConnell, I think, he gave an interview to the New York Times of the weekend where he said, hey, write this down. When they said, Bannon's got a target on your back. And he said, write this down. He laughed. He went, ha. As my mother used to tell me, he who laughs best laughs last. So I think I'll leave that there and take the show. By the way, you got to play that Chuck Todd tape a couple of times the rest of the morning. It is a beauty. Chuck Todd, who's a very savvy guy, just sat right there and said, hey, this looked like it had all the feel of an orchestrated hit, right, because of the timing of it. So the Judge Moore thing comes out from the Washington Post. McConnell's on it. All his lackeys are on it. The opposition party, Bezos, Amazon, Washington Post, and an organized hit with Republican operatives, which Mitch McConnell and his staff knew about. And you could tell they triggered it. 57 minutes after the thing came out, they were all over it. So all that information is going to come out over the next couple of days. And the folks in Alabama and the grassroots folks around the country, Alex, can make a determination on. They can weigh and measure the facts around Judge Moore and come to their own conclusion.
That's exactly correct. Okay, so Steve, I want to talk more about your dinner yesterday with the Zionists of America. This is one of the most important Jewish groups in the country. You, as have the rest of Breitbart, even though we're owned and operated by Jews, has been called everything horrible about anti-Semitic and all of these, which was, Steve, it was so heartbreaking to explain it to my mother, who went to a temple at Leo Baeck on Sepulveda in Los Angeles, world renowned, that I was an anti-Semite. It was heartbreaking to her when I had to sit her down and explain that. Look, I didn't know. I grew up with the Jewish friends.
We're called, and we wear as a badge of honor. We're called. Was it the Daily Stormer or whatever this? They got this. This Nazi thing. The Daily Stormer. They call us Kike. They call us Kikebart. Because there's so many there's so many Jewish editors and writers, and we're very proud of the fact that I think we're the most pro-Jewish site of any news site, and I include the forward in that. In the United States. I mean, we're the leader of the BDS movement. We're the leader of the movement to protect young Jewish kids on college campuses. Breitbart London, one of the reasons it was set up to talk about the plight of the Jews in Europe. We set up Breitbart Jerusalem, right under Aaron Klein, I would say the great Aaron Klein, to be a voice of really breaking stories over there. We couldn't be prouder. And last night, I was so proud to talk to the Zionist. The reason I love the Zionist organization, America, more Klein and the folks, is that they are such fighters. I mean, it's like another Breitbart. These guys are just fighters. And the audience last night was just fantastic. Tom Cotton was honored. Chris Ruddy was honored. It was just Ambassador Friedman, who I think is one of the best picks in the entire Trump administration.
True.
It's just, it was just a fantastic night. And I gave a Fight Club speech about how you can't. By the way, the speech, my speech was helped by input from Joel Pollack and Raheem Kassam. Two brilliant editors at Breitbart that know the world situation so well. So it's just, and one of the things I wanted to talk about was that, hey, in this anti-establishment revolt, we want to have Zionist Organization America and other American Jews throw in here, because the establishment is tapping along the Jewish community of the United States that wants to support Israel. I mean, the bar has been so lowered. Right. What it means is to support Israel, as things like the Taylor Force Amendment is not getting passed in Corker. Lee Zeldin introduced me last night, a Jewish congressman from Long Island, and it was great. He told the story about how I wouldn't, when the head of Palestine, the Palestinian organization, Hamas, came for lunch, didn't want to have lunch. I didn't go to the lunch because I didn't want to breathe the same air as a terrorist. And I didn't want to, eat lunch with a guy that had the blood of innocent Jewish civilians on his hands. Right. I just don't. And that got folks they got folks pretty worked up. I think I gave a rousing honey badger speech.
Yeah, and the speech is getting
AP referred to as fiery.
Yeah, well, you don't want to disappoint your fans, Steve. Yeah, I'm told 3 standing ovations. We're going to get as much coverage as we can on it at Breitbart News. I'm told, I got an email from Moore Klein this morning saying how amazing it was. We're going to get some quotes from him as well. Yeah, Zionist Organization of America, so important, doing such important work. I'm so discouraged, though, Steve, by this administration, because as we talked about with John Bolton at least a dozen times on this show, they want to move the embassy to Jerusalem. All they got to do is put up a sign that says this is the embassy. There's no process. They don't need to get 60 votes.
Time has come. We've waited too long. This is something that has to be done. I talked about the 4 promises that when I stepped into the campaign that President Trump had, we kind of galvanized or kind of organized them into one thing. It was 4 promises, which was to completely destroy the physical caliphate of ISIS, to name the Muslim Brotherhood a terrorist organization, to decertify and renegotiate the Iran deal, right, and then move the embassy to Jerusalem. We've done 2 of those forward. He's destroyed the physical caliphate in the Middle East, and he's decertified the Iran deal, and he's begun the process of thinking through a renegotiation. We still got to name the Muslim Brotherhood a terrorist organization, and we have to move the embassy. Those things have to be done. I know President Trump's going to do them. I know they were on my whiteboard in the little war room I ran. So I know they'll be done, and they have to be done.
Yeah, they do have to be done. Steve Bannon's with me, executive chairman of Breitbart News, often the host of this show, and we're working out a plan, so Steve will be in the captain's chair more often, which everyone's very excited about. Steve, any more comments, thoughts, anything on your mind you want to get to? Yeah, go ahead.
I'm speaking at Gatestone, one of the great think tanks on world policy, chaired by John Bolton.
But by the way, Gatestone does not get the credit they deserve, Steve.
Boy, they're superstars. I love Gatestone, love the policy. Look, anything John Bolton is associated with, the folks at Breitbart love, because he's one of the best strategic thinkers in the country. And I hope one day, not too in the far future, that John Bolton takes a big and active role in President Trump's administration. But talking today at Gatestone about the world as we find it today, China, Persia, and Turkey, and what's going on in the world, and hopefully we'll have that up on the site later this afternoon and tomorrow morning. So I'm really excited about it.
Absolutely. And is that one that's open if people want to try to get there or not?
I hate to say it. I think once again it's sold out. I'm honestly saying. No. No,
what?
I think
Steve, you're packing crowds. Good for you. Hey man, we got to take this show on the road.
We got to do it.
We should do some live radio. We should do some. I think people wake up. I think they'll come see it.
We ought to do some morning radio. We got to get a morning radio show.
It's good. I'm going to be hitting the cowbell in front of a live studio audience. That's what I want. All right. Stephen K. Bannon, executive chairman of Breitbart News, former chief strategist to the White House. I think a lot of people are very impressed with what you've done since you've come out, Steve, myself included, and carrying the torch as he takes on all comers. So he'll be speaking today. Gatestone Institute spoke last night, Zionist Organization of America, where he gave a fiery speech. According to the AP, we'll have clips up later on at Breitbart News. Quick break. We come back. Dan Gaynor from the Media Research Center. Thanks, Steve.